What is going on, tribe, and welcome back to another Galaxy of Heroes video. I am your boy Scribe, and today we've got some exclusive first-time footage of the latest epic confrontation character and his application in 5v5 and 3v3 GAC. This is testing with actual Omicrons attached. Let's see what works and what really doesn't. Let's do this. First things first, ladies and gentlemen, this is not my own footage. This is footage I found on the Swagger Events Discord server where they've been able to do testing with actual live GAC environment testing, which means the Omicrons are active. It's not using my Baylan. This is my Baylan sat at Relic 9 with absolutely zero modding on him because I haven't done any modding yet. Whoopsie daisy. If you want to see a guide to the event, check out my video on my channel. So this footage I'm about to show you has got a number of counters, not exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination, and certainly not necessarily using ideal comps and datacrons and modding and all that sort of business. But it is full Relic 9. It is lots of Omicrons. Let's start looking at the 5v5 counters, and I want to start with things that do not work. So first of all, we have got a Mon Mothma team. This is using a POW Datacron against Baylan Skoll. You can see he's got that Relic 9, that triple Omi. Everything is active right now, and we just get absolutely munched. The damage output here is ridiculously absurd. We do not get even half a moment to breathe before losing. Something a little bit saucier coming up next. We're going to be using a Bo-Katan Mandalore team. Again, look at all those Relic 9s, guys. Across the board, everything is active right now. The enemy team that's using this Baylan is using Kira and Dadbod Boba. Wouldn't say it's the ideal comp, but it is what it is. So we can see immediately Baylan taking that first turn, getting that AoE stun out, and it seems at the start that the team is actually doing relatively well, tanking all that damage. We've got our first damage immunity gonna be thrown out here, unless they decide to do Whistling Birds. I'm not entirely sure. No, okay, great. I thought damage immunity was the correct thing to use there. And the enemy just literally starts to ramp so much damage output and just wails on Bo-Katan. And we know how tanky Bo-Katan Mandalore is. She's a very survivable character. So the fact that we're dealing this much damage to them out the gate is actually quite impressive. You can see the enemy here has got 6 stacks of Purge going on. They're not really taking any turns here outside of the counterattacks. Having a hard time chewing through Bo-Katan herself. She's just constantly recovering. So it feels like there could be at least a little bit of wiggle room here for this to work. But look at that Baylan team. That Baylan team is completely fine, uninjured at all. And once Baylan starts popping off and building up those stacks of Soldier of Fortune, it all goes a bit Pete Tong. Shin coming out there. Did you see the damage on that hit? Let's just go back and watch Bo-Katan OG Bo-Katan here just get wrecked by Shin. 1 second. I want to see that again. Let's have a look. So Bams and Whistling Birds. 447,000 was that? Let's have a look real again. Wait for it. 447,000 on a crit coming out of Shin there. Not too shabby, if I do say so myself. Pretty damaging character, Shin over there. Now, she isn't even able to be taken out by Bam's Whistling Birds, and it all kind of falls apart from here. Bam's gone. Paz is going to bite it, and he's stunned, so he's not really going to do much. And that's kind of it. So maybe there's promise in this team, but by the looks of things, Baylan handles Bo-Katan pretty well. Keeping in the vein of Omicron GAC teams, this one is going to be using a 5v5 Seer team. Now, this isn't using Starkiller as well, which does add a certain degree of survivability to the team. This is just using Malakos alongside Fulcrum and Cal Kestis and Ninth Sister as the 5th. Now, what's interesting here is the constant damage immunity, thanks to essentially a combination of them trying to deathmark people and Malakos basically putting damage immunity out to the whole team. So it has interesting probabilities where it's like, oh, actually, maybe we can just straight up survive this. Malakos has got great AoE damage. Maybe we can actually do something. And look, he's got 100 stacks of madness already, which is absolutely bonkers, if you ask me. One big hit from his rocks could well spell the doom of the entire enemy team, but let's see what actually happens here. The problem is once that damage immunity goes away, which Baylan can do with a nice second special over there, the AoE Armor Shred Dispel ability that he's got, it can actually just knock people out immediately. So let's see. We need to have our boy Malakos having a good turn here. Wait for it. Boom! And people die. I want to see if I can actually capture the damage there on that big hit. Where is it? That's not it. Nope. We don't even get to see the damage, but we lost Malakos and we lost Cal Kestis, and there's another big 300,000 crit coming out of Shin. She's absolutely monstrous, guys. So when the damage is there, it can really ramp very high. Some other teams that were tested is this Adrad team. Now, the Adrad team is going to be using a Powcron. We know that Powcron is very, very powerful. And Adrad is, you know, can sometimes be very surprising. The fact that if you can get over to Hope getting rid of the protection, that mass AoE 4-turn protection disruption with locked heal immunity, may well be something that could be useful against Baylan. We saw good damage there coming out of Pow thanks to the Powcron, but ultimately, there's just too much survivability and damage. You've really got to watch out for that Shin. That Shin is taking out people like AoE damage here. Boom, look at this damage. 500,000, 500,000. Can't even read all that, but, you know, at least a couple of 100,000. Shin is a real menace. I think the whole idea behind this is Baylan is the big old taunting tank that is there to distract the enemy, giving Shin enough time to just unload on the enemy and just absolutely annihilate people. So the other characters are surviving at the moment. They're relatively tanky, but honestly, it's not going to make a difference at this point. You can't revive under a Baylan Skoll team, so it's not like we could even bring back characters if we got Hope. This team is doomed. Stepping it up a bit further then, we're going to be seeing how this operates against JMK. Now, there is so much anti-JMK built into the Baylan kit that trying it is a little bit futile. Even with the Plocron over here. Obviously, we're immune to that instant defeat at the start. Let's just see how we get on over here. They without Cat's ability to immediately get rid of somebody, it just really hampers the ability of the enemy team to get rolling. And look, every time they're getting Foresight, they're getting buff immunity, heal immunity, all this sort of business. We're attacking under protection. Everything is just not going particularly well for the JMK team. And honestly, they don't last all that long, truth be told. It's I know we thought about this when we first saw Baylan Skoll's kit. We were pretty confident that, yes, he's going to absolutely destroy JMK, most likely going to also destroy Ray teams because of all that ramping defense. But this is it in action, guys. They literally cannot actually get anything done right now. Even with that very powerful Plocron, it's just not going anywhere. And once again, Shin showing everybody that she is the absolute GOAT of this team. She is just a monster when it comes to offensive damage. So wait for it. We just keep going here. Once Baylan gets... Look at the amount of damage we're kicking out right now. They've just about hit their first ult a minute and a half in, or a minute and a quarter in. Getting some damage into Baylan, but as you can tell, guys, it's not really going to go very far from here. I'll just fast forward it another 2 minutes, and you can see great damage coming out of our boy Marok there as well. We've also got Relic 9C with Bane comp set up here in 5v5. I think this is a hard sell. I think maybe you could do it with a Marok, not a Marok setup, with an Armorer setup, potentially Armorer Watt, GBA Thrawn, get that triple stacks. But the idea here is you're not supposed to ult. Don't ult with C because you need that first special for survivability and you need to be able to drain everybody's max protection. Bane over there did great work, immediately getting rid of the enemy Kira and nearly got rid of that Boba Fett sign of Django as well. I generally do think that the issue with this one is that is that the player here just ulted. I don't think you should be ulting against Baylan Skoll with C. I think you should be saving it so you can keep that first special for the retribution and the protection recovery, essentially. The mass assist, not retribution, sorry. So don't ult there, just stay in your normal stance, and I think this one has actually got some hope of surviving. I think genuinely, because this ult doesn't really do anything because we cannot insta-kill. I mean, it does good AoE damage, but you don't need it. You've got 4 minutes left on the clock. Just keep that timer going, and you're probably more likely, see, we would have had a heal available earlier. Bane would be at maximum health, and we'd be able to just slowly sap away all of the protection on the enemy team. As soon as they get rid of Bane as well, it's kind of over. You know what I mean? When Bane is gone, you've lost all the benefits from his unique, essentially, or most of them. The immunity to heal immunity, you know, the no critical hits, the protection recovery, all that sort of thing goes downhill. I think there is potential there if you don't ult. One of the teams that we know does counter is a Finn Zori team. Now in 5v5 with the Omicrons active, no chance. They just get absolutely destroyed. It's not even close, guys. Finn Zori is not countering Baylan in fives. Not by the looks of things. It's not even close. 12 seconds. Almost lasting as long as I do. And finally, there's something weird going here with the gas team. I'm not quite sure. Because Snips is in this team, they should be attacking under protection. but they're not. They're just hitting. They're hitting protection, or maybe it's just the exposed damage coming through. But I'm pretty sure exposed damage is supposed to be white because it's true damage essentially. But either way, gas snips as it stands right now doesn't do a thing. Doesn't do a thing. Gets absolutely wrecked. So yeah, we know that one's off the cards. We've had a look and seen what doesn't work in a 5v5 environment. Let's think about what does work then, because that's what you really come here for. What actually beats Baylan on defense? Let's do that. First up, in 5v5, we're going to be looking at Jabba the Hutt. This is messy. Obviously, the Rancor cannot actually eat Baylan Skoll. Can't eat anybody because they're immune to instant defeats, but you can actually still just about maybe win. This is not going to be my go-to counter, guys, and I don't recommend it is for you. We've got other much more reliable counters to talk about to Baylan Skoll that I would highly recommend before this. So we're doing the things like, you know, tearing off Baylan's arms. We've got the buff immunity on him, but unfortunately everybody else is stealthed thanks to Shin, so we can't actually target the other enemies on the team. Fortunately for us, we do have stealth on our Bausch, and the incoming damage from both Marok and Shin is actually incredibly high, and that's what causes us so much issues, I feel. Because all it takes is 1 or 2 hits, and those guys go down thanks to so much damage output on the team. Get a big old kick here from Embo, and we'll see how this actually transpires. As you can see, we're doing pretty decent damage to Baylan Skoll. The damage output that we've got is very respectable, but you need to have a lot of burst damage, I feel, to take them out, because if you don't take them out completely, they are going to recover, because they've got a lot of survivability going on there. As you can see, Baylan is about to drop, and he doesn't take reduced damage from percentile health effects, so things like thermal detonators and explosives really do very well. Here we go. We've gotten rid of Baylan. Once Baylan's out the picture, life is a lot easier. Obviously, our team is completely on the rocks at this point, but if we can just take out the rest, it's generally not too bad. That thermal detonator will actually cause buff immunity and dispel, so we don't have to worry about the damage immunity there. As you can see, it's just really going to be Jabba and Santi when things actually start to pop off. Of course, don't forget, guys, that thermal detonators deal damage based on your crit damage. And because this team ramps a lot of crit damage, those thermals do boatloads of damage, okay? So, yeah, very good stuff over here. Pretty reliable, I'd say, but not my go-to counter. You eventually chew through. Next up, and this one's a little more special, is, of course, the Gungans. 5v5, the Gungans actually do really well. Really, this is probably where I'm going to be using Gungans from now on. For a 5v5 environment, if this counter holds true for all the ways that we're going to be manipulating the Baylan Skoll team as it comes up, as we understand more about his kit, I'm going to be using Gungans because in 5v5, it seems to be an incredibly reliable way of dealing with them. As we know, Baylan Skoll is not immune to percentile health effects, so he can be death-marked. If he gets deathmark on him, he's going to drop like a sack of potatoes, like spuds. I do highly recommend that people that are modding their Baylan try to mod them for as little max health as possible and as much protection and defense as possible, because that's going to keep him on the field a lot longer. But as you can see, we got rid of the ads, the extra 2, from this team very, very quickly, and it looks like Shin at the back there has got deathmark on her from Jar Jar's basic, and she is not going to last very long. It feels like Deathmark and Exposes are such a key element of how to counter this team. Yep, that's right, Boss Nass does the old Motorboat 9000 on Baylan Skoll. When it's just left to Baylan Skoll and Marok, then they can't even get through to the shield generator outside of the AoEs that they've got, so you're going to be in a pretty good position. Of course, you know, Jar Jar Binks, as long as the enemy has got 3 debuffs on them, you can potentially get that death mark on the largest, the healthiest ally. So, like, look at this. We've got pretty much full health, full health, full protection on everybody now. It seems a no-brainer that Gungans are the solution here. How embarrassing. A badass like Baylan Skoll. Jar Jar Binks, motorboating and blue balls. That's the solution. Who knew that the solution to taking out Baylan was blue balls? Well, that's the way it is. And the last one should come as really no surprise to anyone. Great Mothers destroys this. Now, this is because of Great Mother's Datacron, of course, but even Great Mother's Doomed ability immediately gets rid of all protection on Baylan Skoll. I feel like Great Mother's is a complete hard counter to this team right now, because she just, gets rid of the protection, and then every time they take a turn or get hit by a blessed enemy, they with a basic, they're going to be losing max health. They do not last long at all. Like, it just gets absolutely shredded. The unfortunate side of this is, of course, you'd have to take your Great Mothers off defense, and that in itself feels like a waste. But it's good to know you have solutions if you've got Great Mothers and her Datacron. Those are the 5v5 teams that I've got footage for. Let's go ahead and check out what works and what doesn't work in 3v3. I'm going to first go over what does not work in 3v3. First up on the board, Bane with Malak lead. This just kind of got shreked, to be honest. I mean, I like the theory craft. It's a decent shout out. I do think that C Bane is a better choice here, but there's just too much damage output. And if you start fearing fear on a dark side team, it's not smart. So maybe Bane without maybe, throwing in a character capable of fearing as a Sith ally is better, but this just is not the answer. We do move on to C Bane, and unfortunately, like I said, I firmly do believe that the player who played this just didn't take the right approach. Do not ultimate, guys. Don't ultimate. If you're using C Bane, you keep C in his base form so you can survive, and you just stack up your mastery. You strain off the enemy's protection. I think in 3v3 in particular that C Bane will work. It's just whether or not that's a good use of your C Bane. So you can see here we get the link on Shin and on Baylan, and I think that makes complete sense. And then we're just spending our time trying to attack the enemy. This enemy's got a Retribution Datacron on, which I don't even think is the best Datacron. I think the defense to offense one is the best level 6 for Baylan. But yeah, they're just going on. They're going fine, and then, they do their basic, they hit their ultimate, and then they ult. And that's the mistake, guys. In my opinion, I think this team works versus Baylan, but you just don't ult. You see, because you now have no means of keeping Bane alive, realistically speaking, and you've already seen the damage output on this team. We would have a heal here that would heal up Bane, and that would make it so much more useful. The ultimate basically doesn't do anything, so we might as well just try and keep the Bane alive as long as possible, rather than be at the mercy of Baylan. Once you lose Bane, you lose too many benefits, so it's just not ideal. And there we have it. That's it. That's job done. C's cooked. He's toast. He's done. And that's that. Unfortunately, that's all the 3v3 losses teams that I've seen. Let's look at what does work in 3v3. Much of what we've seen before works again in 3v3. Gungans, we're using Tarpals and Jar Jar Binks here. Works like an absolute charm. Almost as good, or just as good, depending on your perspective, as using Gungans in 5v5. It seems really reliable. We've got that evasion mechanic built into Jar Jar, and we've got Deathmark still, and all that sort of good business. So it's pretty reliable. Just do what you got to do. Probably mash buttons, roll your face over the keyboard, whatever happens to work for you. I do think that they should be basing in here with Jar Jar Binks to try and force that Deathmark out, so you can get rid of Baylan very quickly. But you don't even need Phalanx here, guys. You don't need a pre-taunt. Just throw in Tarpals. Tarpals can dispel on a basic. You've got shocks, you've got damage, you've got death marks. And look how quickly, less than a minute to take down an R9 Baylan. Kind of says it all, really, I think, guys. It's all downhill from here. The enemy doesn't even get out the shield generator, I don't think. Now you see there's one stack left on that shield generator towards the end of this battle. Gungans just work, bro. Once again, Great Mothers proves that they are pretty great. I mean, we know that Great Mothers with the Datacron is basically just going to #work, isn't it? Take away all the protection. Baylan doesn't last very long after that. And, yeah, they don't do anything. It's just they don't even kill anybody. Just do the mass assists, get all that additional attacks coming out of Great Mothers. They're going to reduce Baylan's max health. Everybody's going to, talk about it later down the pub over a pint. I mean, that's how I like to do everything in this game. How about you? And that's the thing with the Great Mothers team, is it really is just a ticking time bomb. Unless you can actually defeat them very, very quickly, you are going to be quite literally doomed in terms of game mechanics and in terms of the match. Eventually, you will sap away their maximum health to such a point that even I could knock them out. Look, Baylan has literally 1 bar of health. He's got 1 health right now. Yes, they got rid of Spirit, which is a little bit scary, but, Morgan Elsbeth is still fine, and we can very easily just tank the rest out with Morgan and have a good time. That locked heal immunity nearly did actually kill the Great Mothers, but thankfully we do eventually recover. And there's all that recovery when they're attacking out of turn. Shin, when she does a basic, has to call an attack out of turn, which is going to heal us up rather nicely. Alright then, and that should be Shin done and dusted as well. I could see this one going a little bit sideways, and like I said before, you really want to keep that Great Mothers on defense regardless, but it's nice to know that things can work here. Slacker in 3v3 does a fantastic job. In 3v3 he's just got so much control, you can stop people from doing pretty much anything. Poke away on Baylan at the start, turn me to swap with Hux, poke away again, stun locking people into place. They can't take any turns, you can, everybody laughs, some people cry. Mostly people that wailed on Baylan, I guess. Slacker is GL at the end of the day, and we should expect GLs to be able to beat non-GL teams when they're on defense. I don't have any issues with that at all. So yeah, this makes sense. It takes a while. You need to do usual Slacker things, which just consists of ramping ever so slowly until you get to your ult, and you can siphon up enough mastery to essentially one-shot. I do think that there's probably a little element of danger if you misplay it, or if the modding isn't quite in place. You need to make sure that your Hux is fast enough to interrupt turns and stuff like that. But, you know, Baylan didn't last very long, or we haven't even gotten to ult yet. So, big jump from Slacker, and he's going to clean up the board from there very, very quickly. Yeah, you're going to lose characters because the enemy does have a lot of damage output. But that's about it, really. Poker. Shin got poked. Alright. Next up for 3v3, we've got a casual 7 Omicron team. This is an incredibly powerful team. Sia with Starkiller and Malicos was fantastic back in the day, and that remains to be true even today. This team has just got nutty levels of survivability and damage. It's scary how good this team is. I'm not surprised in the slightest that this team can do this. So, yeah, here we go. Look at the stacks of madness on Malicos already hit 19 stacks. Probably going to ramp up even further. The damage immunity coming in clutch there as well. Wait for it. Malicos recovering. There's a window of opportunity there where you could just lose your Malicos, and that's probably going to spell the end of this counter. But it seems relatively good all the same. Yeah, I would just keep on going, trying to take out that Baylan. We've got 58 stacks of madness. Can I play with madness? Alright, we've nearly got through to our capital ship pull down. It should be coming active any second now, which means big old damage to the enemy and lots of nice recovery for us. Wonderful. Starkiller's got that damage immunity, which was clutch, and then it got dispelled, of course. Relatively typical. Alright, so you can see it does kind of go back and forth, and then Starkiller just decides he's had enough. He just had enough, and he reenacts the opener for Force Unleashed 2. And then Sia. Percentile health effects, there's no immunity to that on the Baylan team. That's why things like dots, thermal detonators, exposes, and percentile health effects work so well. The last one that I want to show you is just kind of fun, because we get to actually have a first look at new Conquest Ezra as well. Jedi Knight Luke lead with JML and Conquest Ezra. This is such a cool team. Like, look at the... what I will want to point out is just later we get a really cool hit from Ezra that really shows off how powerful he can be. His hits on his second special is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I'll see if I can stop the timer at an appropriate moment to show you. But this has got pretty good survivability. We've got good control. We slow down the enemy team. We've got JML for support, of course, putting that tenacity down, putting all that. But big hits coming out of this hit here. It does triple stacks there. What do we do? 10k, 13k. I know that's a little bit disappointing, but that's against Baylan himself. He's probably modded for a lot of defense. And now we are at 50 stacks of Purgle Migration, so you should be able to get rid of that Exiled, and you can put that on an enemy team. Straight in, Baylan Skoll disappeared, completely gonzos. Wait for it. Wait for Ezra's big hit. Here it goes. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. You see that? There we go. Look at the damage on that. 100,000 with what? 31,000 true damage. 53,000 with 31,000 true damage. 38,000 with 31,000 true damage. We're talking what? Like 240,000 damage there or something like that? I'm just eyeballing that. Crazy, crazy damage on that one hit coming out of Ezra. Those true damage to stacks, I believe it's 20% per critical hit on those 3 hits based on 20% of the enemy's max health. So the more max health they have, the more damage that you're going to deal with that, provided you crit. Very important to crit on that, otherwise it doesn't deal nearly as much. But as you can see, Ezra is pretty darn strong, and I can't wait to get him in a couple of weeks' time. Here he goes again. Booyah, absolutely destroying Shin there. To recap then, in 5v5, the teams that are doing well at the moment, Jabba the Hutt, Gungans, and Great Mothers, very, very well. I imagine 5v5 Slacker still works. People that don't do so well, we're looking at JMK, Finzori, Adrad, Bo-Katan Mandalore, Gas, Sia Malicos, Momo as well. I forgot she's not in here. Those teams don't perform particularly well in 5v5. And then for 3v3, the people that do good, JMK, JML, but this is really a Jedi Knight Luke JML with Ezra. Not sure if other comps will work. Boss Nass, obviously, Great Mothers, and Sia Starkiller Malicos. That's probably the most reliable one. I'm not even sure. Maybe Gungans is the best shout. I think Gungans is the best shout. People that aren't working at the moment is C and Bane. I think part of it is because Bane was using Malak, which did fear, and that just destroyed the team. And then there was C, and I think the C Bane one, that can work, but I think it's just played incorrectly. And that's gonna about do it for today's video. I hope this was interesting to you guys. It's nice to get a little bit of a sneak peek, not only at Baylan and how he's going to operate in 3v3 and 5v5, but also getting some idea of what Ezra is going to bring to the game when his conquest finishes up in about 10 days time. I cannot wait. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos, and I will see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.